Good afternoon. Today's day is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. The time is 12:02 p.m. Welcome to the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Finance Authority Special Meeting Agenda. I will take roll call. Javier Moreno, Mayor Chairperson's here. Mayor Pro Tem Camilo Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Raúl Ureña.
Here.
Councilmember Gloria Romo.
Here.
Councilmember Rosia Herrera Fernandez.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Due to the declaration of emergency, this meeting is being held pursuant to AB 361, approved by Governor of California on September 16, 2021, and some or all of the City Council members may participate in this meeting by teleconference. Pursuant to the Imperial County Public Health Department guidelines, City Council meetings are now open for public attendance at 100% of capacity of the council chambers, and all persons entering City Hall will be required to wear a face mask. Public participation will continue to be available in the following ways. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the meeting via live stream at http://communityspectrum.org live at 12 p.m. or via the Calexico City Hall Facebook page at https://www.facebook.com City of Calexico CA. Members of the public will be able to make public comments in the following ways. 1. In-person comments. 2. Submit public comments via email by 10 a.m. on Wednesday, November the 10th, 2021 to our City Clerk, Gigi Garcia at calexicoca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. 3. Via Zoom from a personal computer, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android device. Please click the link below to join the webinar. The webinar ID number is 864-9483-7896, and the passcode is 842372. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mr. Garcia, can you do us the honor?
Sure. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Mr. Ureña, can you lead us with a mission statement, pledge?
Yes. City of Calexico mission statement. Together, we pledge to provide effective immigration services in a courteous and respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico.
Thank you. Please take a seat. Approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second by anybody?
Move.
She moved?
Yep.
You second?
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Ms. Romo, second by Mr. Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexicoca.gov the Friday the following City Council meeting. Public comments and public appearances, not to exceed 3 minutes. This is a time for the public to address the City Council on the special agenda items only. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the City Council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments? No public comments. Thank you. Moving on to discussion and potential action items. We have one item, application public convenience and necessity certification for bus transit route within the Calexico city limits.
Director Taylanda, Mayor, will be providing a report on this item.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council, staff, and members of the public.
Good afternoon.
The item before you is a public convenience and necessities request. The applicant is Abelardo Perez. He is applying to operate a numero 2 shuttle Inc. operation, which is a bus transportation within the city of Calexico city limits. The number of vehicles that are proposed for operation with the granting, if a certificate of public convenience and necessity is granted, are 4 buses. The proposed route and area to be covered was included in the maps,
Gabby.
which we will be providing on the screen, so we could show the route that's being proposed. Per the Calexico Municipal Code, Section 5.36.02, the bus certification must be granted by resolution by the Calexico City Council. Historically, Mr. Perez was operating his transit route from 2010 approximately through 2020. Due to the pandemic, Mr. Perez had to stop his transit route operation due to the decline in demand with the border shutdowns and what was going on with the pandemic and the social distancing requirements. It was previously known as L&A shuttle, and when he ceased operation per the municipal code that governs this type of public convenience and necessity certification, he must go through the application process, and the hours of operation for this route are proposed to be from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. As you can see on the screen before you, it's going to be quite a few slides. The starting point would be at what is known as the transit hub on 1st and Heffernan Avenue, and then it would run east on 1st Street, turn left, and head north on Blair Avenue. If you could scroll to the next one, Ms. Gabby, thank you. Along Blair Avenue, it goes all the way north, and there's about 2 stops, one at Blair where the Methodist church is, and then it crosses diagonally towards Canal Street, where we have the medical center area where the El Centro Regional Medical Center is, and Alegria, and a couple of other doctors' offices are. There's another stop right there. Then once the bus stops at that bus stop area, it'll head west on Canal Street, and then it'll take a left on Rockwood Avenue, and it'll head north on Rockwood Avenue, and it has 2 stops on Rockwood Avenue. One, if you could scroll a couple, 2 more, I'd say, thank you, Scabby. On Rockwood Avenue, it has a stop at the corner of Rockwood and Vega Street, so in front of the apartment complexes. And then after it completes its stop there, it continues north on Rockwood Avenue. It has one more stop by the small commercial complex where Planet Fitness, well, it's on Rockwood Street, so the back of Planet Fitness, the back of Cardenas, and where the Loncheria is, so it would stop on the right-hand side, heading north, and then once it completes its stop at that proposed, or that transit location, it continues north on Rockwood, crosses Cole, and goes into the Walmart parking lot, and after it does pick up or drop off at the Rockwood parking lot, it goes south on Rockwood, then it'll take a right at Cole, and it'll head west on Cole. It'll cross 111. You're gonna have to scroll a couple more.
More.
Yeah. So we're at where it's crossing Cole. 111 and Cole. So there we go. So it goes west on Cole. Then it goes through Scaroni and cuts across the movie theater parking lot, heads south, and stops at the corner outlined in the bubble. Then it gets back on Cole, heads east, and then goes, takes a right on Scaroni and goes south on Scaroni. And then once it goes down Scaroni, it turns on Velardo Street, and it makes a stop at Las Palmas. There's a stop at Las Palmas. Miss Gabby, could you scroll? Yes, please. Another one? One more backwards, please. Thank you. So after it stops at Las Palmas, it continues south, and then it takes a right onto 98. It heads east on 98, then it takes a right on Heber Avenue, and it goes all the way back down to First Street at the transit station, the shuttle hub. And that is for the first proposed route. The second route this operation is proposing is to the Grand Plaza outlets, and that one is the route outlined in yellow. So the Grand Plaza outlet route would also begin at First Street at the transit hub, and then it would head north on Heffernan, and then it takes a left on East 2nd Street, and it heads west on 2nd Street. It has no stops. It's a direct shuttle to the Grand Plaza outlets. It stops at the Grand Plaza outlets. It drops off any customer, any ridership on the bus, and then comes right back to the transit hub all the way through 2nd Street heading east, and then it takes a right on to Heffernan Avenue and back to the shuttle hub located on 1st and Heffernan. The proposed operation for both routes, hours of operation would be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The pricing that is being proposed by this shuttle system would be $2 each way for the route to Walmart and back. So it'd be $2 each way, so $2 to get there and $2 to get back. And then for the Grand Plaza route, it would also be $2 to get there and $2 to get back. The applicant we do have present today with us is Mr. Abelardo Perez. The buses will be parked at 220 McKinley Street, Calexico, California, 92231. Per the municipal code ordinance, the required findings to issue the certification for public convenience and necessity are outlined within the staff report. The required findings are as followed: a demand by the public for a bus service. With the border reopening, there is a high demand for affordable public transportation. The financial responsibility of the applicant will be financially responsible for the entire operation. The adequacy of the existing transportation service. The vehicles prior to operation, the proposed shuttle buses, are to be inspected by the chief of police and the fire chief to ensure adequacy of the vehicles. The applicant will be required to meet all, if any, requirements imposed by the chief of police or the fire chief prior to commencing operation of the transit services. And letter D, the effect which bus service applied for may have on traffic congestion and parking, and whether it will result in a hazard to the public. The proposed service will abide by all traffic laws and any other regulations or requirements imposed on the operation by city staff, the chief of police, or the fire chief. in regards to public health and safety. At this moment, there will be no fiscal impact. It is all the responsibility of the applicant. The environmental portion of this project would be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and you do have the attached resolution. Are there any questions?
One question, just to be clear about what we're voting on. So this certification is not in any way exclusivity to these routes. If another applicant wanted to apply for a similar route or one that crosses, they would be able to do so.
Yes, so per ordinance as of right now, how it stands, it does not limit the number of transit, shuttle, or bus operations. It merely requires that the council meet the required findings, which are outlined in the staff report, the ones that I just went through, to establish that there is a necessity for the residents or the public within the city of Calexico, and this operation would only be for the city of Calexico city limits. It wouldn't travel outside of the city of Calexico. There currently is in operation ICTC transit routes within our city, which service a different demand and need to the residents of the city of Calexico, whether they're residents or not, any consumers that are traveling through the city. So no, it is not exclusive. Anyone wanting to obtain this type of certification would go through the same application process as what is before you right now, and would submit the same documentation, same information, hours of operation, proposed operation fees, their proposed routes, and it would be brought to the city council for review, discussion, and action. So no, there's not a limit on how many of these can be issued, and other than that, for the public convenience and necessity, the requirements do not limit if another transit operator goes through their route, because the stops and the transit hub are for public use of this nature.
Excellent.
So there's no limit to it.
That answers the question. And then just another brief one. So for this shuttle that goes to the Grand Plaza, when we have to close down 2nd Street, if there's border traffic, is the operator allowed to go up 5th? Do they have flexibility on that?
So outlined before you and within the city municipal code, the route is not exclusive. So what I mean by that is that whatever is approved right now does not limit the operation in times of emergencies or congestion. This is information that we as staff bring forth to the council, and the council has the ability to impose conditions of approval with your public convenience and necessity certification. You could add a language that says they're only limited to this route, and if there's congestion, then they have to, mitigate it and continue on this route. So that would be their responsibility, or the council could let it stand as is, because per the municipal code that governs this type of certification, they're not limited to the routes, but the council has the ability to impose conditions of approval tied to the certification.
Got it. That answers the
I
question.
have a question, Lisa. That's okay?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, the businessman, Mr. Perez, what experience do you have in operating buses, and what did Mr. Perez base his payment of $2 per person? Is there a study? O sea, salimos de una pandemia, van a cobrar $2, pues tendremos que dar $1 a los de la ciudad de Calexico, porque no creo que sea demasiado caro.
The city council,
Discúlpame, ¿cuánto cobraba el señor Castro cuando usted operaba, señor? Sí, nomás quiero saber, porque es que estoy sorprendida que
Okay,
$2.
Ms. Romo, hold on.
Ms.
hold on.
Romo,
Yeah.
the city of Calexico adopted a policy in which they dictate the fare for taxis and bus transportation, which is the one that's being followed to this day. So if that is an intention to be amended, it would have to go through the proper policy channel, just like it did last year.
But in my opinion, according to the letter sent to us, Mr. Luis Castro, he says that it begins operation in the first week of December. Then are we going to have two bus line? O sea,
Ms. Romo, con todo respeto, señora Romo, estamos hablando de esto nomás ahorita.
sí,
Eso es lo que
sí,
tenemos
pero
que enfocarnos.
estoy escuchando a
Sí,
Lisa.
yo entiendo. Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank you, Lisa, for your explanation, because I think that if this is approved, if we approve this, it's not going to hold anybody else back from applying, as long as they meet the criteria. And I think right now, the transportation is very much needed. And as you said, $2 if Mrs. Romo feels is a lot, but I think you made that justification on how it came about. So, in other words, we can't just have anybody come and do an application and follow all the procedures that they have to and put their own rate, because that will be up to us to either approve it or not. So where it stands right now is not limiting or stopping anybody else from applying, Mrs. Romo. So I think if Mr. Castro wants to open up in next month and whenever it is, as long as he meets everything that's required, he comes also to the board, and we also move on if we want to approve it or not. That's how I see it. I think right now we need the transportation. That's how. And what I would like to see, if we could open something from the Eastport directly to downtown Calexico, I think that's something that I would really like to see be done. But anyways, that's.
Thank you.
And thank you
Mr.
again for your
Garcia,
explanation.
Sure. Sure. You know, I go back to the point that Ms. Ureña asked earlier. You know, this is not exclusivity. I think this is, as it's rightly put in this, as part of the subject of this item, it's a necessity, part of the necessity. So if any other company decides to come forward in the next few days, I mean, we will look at it. You know, we will look at it, and yes, you know, these rates, you know, might not seem that they're fair, but again, I wouldn't like just to call it that it's not fair, that it's expensive, or not enough with that study. And I think that study was done when those rates were set, you know, back then through policy. So if that it's something that concerns this council, I will invite for those rates to be considered again, you know, based on, you know, what it takes to run these operations. I think we have to be fair. When we have to analyze, it's not just throwing numbers. At least that's not the way that I want to see this, and that I've seen that we have moved in the direction in the past, you know, council meetings, in looking at things that we are revisiting. And I think that's the way that this council should go. That's my take. Now, as far as other points, what I see maybe is an expansion of services, you know, as far as, you know, the area of service, right? Coverage, you know. Councilwoman, you know, Fernandez brought up a good point, going to the east port of entry. I think, you know, with that, I think we can encourage people to cross, you know, walking, or so they can be transportation, you know, for them available, reliable. And then maybe even, I think, you know, something that we have to consider. I've seen a lot of school-age children, when they get out of school, they're walking on 98, you know, going, you know, towards the east side of our town. So maybe we need to be more comprehensive on our coverage, you know, and analyze also the transit patterns or needs as to when that is needed. Maybe we want to add a route, you know, for that area of our town. where this students, or this, have the opportunity to take the bus. Some of those are not, enrolling, busing services. But if there's an option, probably we should be looking at that. And maybe there might be a consideration of rates also, for students and senior citizens, all those things that we see that we should be able, or we should be looking at those considerations. That's on the one end. And then also, Miguel or the chief, if we can look into, if we so decide to approve this item, if we can look at maybe making sure that we mark, that the crosswalks, at least where you're gonna have the stops, the bus stops or the stops of this, the transportation, because with this also comes the safety of our ridership. I think we need to be looking at that also. And then the other thing, I think someone else brought up the fact that, people that go to the outlets and coming back or going that direction, or people who live on the east side of town coming back to the west or vice versa, right? I think somehow, and Chief, I know that's something that, in an ideal world, we should be doing that, but I know there are challenges. If we can just, dedicate an area where the buses can go through at the peak hours, so that way we also encourage, transportation and people going out to, whether it's the outlets or getting to the other side of town. I think that's the other cry that we hear from our citizens, that during peak hours of traffic, or when we have our traffic, going on, that they can't really go in either direction of our town. So we need to be looking at that. I think we have been talking about, how can we be more, transportation friendly. And I think this is part of the whole approach to that. So now that we're doing this, that we're looking at this, let's think about that. Let's get together with whoever needs to be planning that, whether it's you, Lisa, Miguel and the chief and everybody else. If we could just encourage that. It should be part of this. So that's my comment, Mayor.
Mayor,
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Yeah.
I understand you have the final word. I just do want to point out that I know that there may be people in the audience
Right.
that wish to comment on this item.
But I'll defer to the end. Does anybody, Chief, you want, no? Mr. Castro? Anybody?
First of all, since there's people watching us, I would like to wish all the Marines a happy birthday. November 10th is their birthday for the Marine Corps. Happy birthday to all you guys. And tomorrow's Veterans Day, too. Veterans Day. So I would like to start off with that because I like to recognize our veterans. Anyway, so going back to this, one of the items, Lisa, and what happened back in 2014 is the chief of police actually requires anybody that has transportation that they have to go to the California Highway Patrol, and they get inspected by them. Then we do a secondary inspection. At this time, most of the inspection is done by the Highway Patrol. We go through other forms. That's the way Mr. Castro had to go do it, and they have to go through CHP, and they get that inspection. So that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that you all understood, is that we go through CHP first, because they have their motor carrier units, which they are professionals at what they do. They inspect all commercial vehicles. Another thing, Mr. Garcia, we were doing something with Grand Plaza during peak hours, where we would let them, through a Second Street going towards. So we made sure that we mitigated that during the peak hours when it started. At first, we had a hard time. Then we, as a police department at the time, the chief allowed for them to go in through Second Street, and they would be cut in to go and leave people there, and then bring people back the same way. So we do have something that we did in the past that I wouldn't change it, because it worked fine for the Grand Plaza and for our citizens and for the citizens of Mexicali coming shopping to Calexico. Other than that, like I said, he would have to, whoever applies would have to go through the same process that we did through CHP, then with our approval, and then these people are granted the permits to operate within the city of Calexico. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else? You, go ahead.
Good evening, City Council members and the public. My name is Abelardo Perez. I'm the applicant. And I was just wanted to touch bases with the council and let them know, I hear the comments. And what I want to say about the $2 fare, it's very expensive having a transportation business. I had it for more than 10 years, and I struggle charging $2 to El Centro, one way and the other way back. And I was barely making money to renew equipment. And I was very constant in renewing my equipment. People saw it, they saw it. I was buying 3 buses a year. And these buses weren't costing pennies and dimes. They cost thousands. And in order for Calexico to have a decent transportation service, we need the money. We don't know if the people's gonna be coming in, we depend from the people that are coming from the other side of the border. We don't know how many people are gonna be crossing. Insurance policies went way high now with COVID, and gas is very expensive. Salaries are going up. Now we have to pay, other type of insurances. And $2, I think we're being short. People are coming over to spend their money, and they're willing to pay it. They're paying, I don't know, $6, $7 per taxi to go to Walmart. It's nothing compared to the shuttle. And the time frame, will be almost the same. So by that comment, I think $2 is very fair. If anyone else wants to do it for less, they're gonna be stuck, with the same equipment or not having enough money to maintain this transportation service. The new port of entry, someone says something about it. I tried it 2 years, 2 times. And I was charging very low fee, same thing, $2. I work with the ACTC, work with the people from the port of entry, people in charge of the port of entry. We were working very hard. We had many meetings, trying to make things happen for the public, from Mexicali to use the east port of entry. And it was very hard, I posted on Facebook, had more than 5,000 comments, more than 10,000 views, very positive vibes. And I tried it, and I was just not making it. I did it for like 4 months, and I had to put money on my pocket, to sustain the business, since I'm not getting any subsidizes from the government or the state or any federal. So I dropped it. 2018, tried it again. We did it for the same fare, for the same amount of money. And again, had to do it for only 3 months. And I had to put money of my other routes, to sustain the other one from the port of entry. I don't know if I did Channel 66 in Mexicali. They did a little announcement, that there was a new route, going through the new port of entry. We threw flyers, more than 20,000 flyers at the port of entry, and we just couldn't make it happen. 2019, I believe, Grand Plaza, they signed a contract with our company, with my company, and we did it for free. We were writing, they were writers, we announced it on Channel 66 and announced it on the Grand Plaza page that there was gonna be no charge from the new port of entry all the way down to Grand Plaza for free. We did it 2 months and it didn't work. It didn't work for them. We had no writers. So it will be very hard for anyone to, establish a route, especially like I said, with the gas prices, salaries, and insurance. It will be hard. I will do it again. I will try it, but we will have to work with the city and our city from Mexicali, the governors, to encourage people to use the route. That way we can sustain it. Otherwise, it's just a failure. Well, I'm here. I would like to do the route. I have experience. And I think I did whatever I did on those 10 years, going against the waves all the time, I've been here so many times, and I applied for this certificate, 3 times, and 2 were negative, because there was a lot of conflict of interest. Now, I would like for the council to think about it. There is a need and a necessity for the people to use these routes, and I'm ready for it. So, thank you very much. My name is Abelardo Perez, and any questions?
Anybody? No? I don't, Mr. Pettis. Thank you very much for speaking. Anybody else? Mr. Castro? Yes. ¿Sí?
Buenas tardes, miembros del concilio, mayor,
Buenas tardes.
city attorney y administrador Figueroa. Básicamente, pues yo entiendo el proceso, ¿verdad? Hay una necesidad de transporte y no estoy aquí para discutir eso. Nomás vengo a presentarme y a decirles, les dejé una carta a cada uno explicándoles el por qué, la razón. Se paró hace 19 meses el servicio de transporte aquí en Calexico, que se llama Calexico Transit. No voy a repetir lo que dijo el señor Pérez, pero básicamente transporte es muy costoso. Es muy costoso. Todos los comentarios que él dijo acerca del costo es cierto. Es muy costoso, es mucho trabajo. Como ustedes saben, y les expliqué en la carta, la familia Castro empezó en el 71. Son cerca de 50 años que hemos hecho el transporte. Las rutas se crearon pidiéndolas aquí en la ciudad de Calexico, cubriendo las necesidades de los ciudadanos de aquí de Calexico y de Mexicali. Como ustedes saben, este es un pueblo fronterizo, dependemos de Mexicali, de los clientes de Mexicali, los turistas. Básicamente si cerraron la frontera, pues tuvimos que parar. Esa fue la única razón el por qué paramos y estamos dispuestos a volver a operar, ¿verdad? Por eso es la razón que estoy aquí y por eso me junté con varios del concilio. Me faltaban dos, ya me junté con ellos dos y individualmente yo les expliqué la razón el por qué se paró. Y aquí estamos para ofrecer el servicio. Para volver a operar no es fácil, es pagar todos los requerimientos y hacer todos los requerimientos. Es como volver a empezar. Por eso es la razón que quiero, más bien explicarles. Ya les dejé una carta, ¿verdad? Y personalmente. Y la otra, pues, antes de parar el servicio en marzo, yo vine aquí a la ciudad de Calexico y hablé con Figueroa y hablé con el concilio que íbamos a incrementar el servicio de transporte, lo que es el costo. Y me lo autorizaron, pero desafortunadamente vino la pandemia y pues tuvimos que parar.
¿A cuánto lo autorizaron?
Estábamos cobrando, por decir así, a una persona regular era $1, lo incrementamos a 1.25. Perdón, sí, ¿verdad? Ay, ya hace tanto tiempo, pero bueno, a los estudiantes se les cobraba $1 también y lo incrementamos a 1.25 a estudiantes. A los seniors les cobramos $1 y les íbamos a subir una peseta. Está autorizado. Y me equivoqué. Una persona regular pagaba 1.25. Entonces nosotros pedimos permiso y lo incrementaron a 1.50. Y había un viaje redondo que para conveniencia del público, de los clientes, ellos pagaban $2.50 por el viaje redondo. Lo llevábamos a Walmart, Palmas y Santo Tomás, cuando estaba Santo Tomás, por el mismo costo y regresaban para atrás. Básicamente la gente se ahorraba un viaje, 1.25, $1 se ahorraba. Esas cuatro cosas me autorizó la ciudad de Calexico. Y al volver yo, si ustedes me permiten, quiero continuar con el mismo costo, ¿verdad? Cuando se inició el 71 comenzamos cobrando una peseta, 25 centavos. So, hace 50 años, pues 1.25 en realidad el costo de vida ha incrementado demasiado en 50 años, ¿verdad? So, pero sí entiendo el proceso y nomás básicamente quiero informarles, ¿no? Si tienen alguna otra pregunta, pues me la pueden hacer.
Yo tengo una pregunta, estoy confundida. ¿Hay 5 líneas o rutas para trabajar en Calexico, señor Castro?
Mira,
No
señora.
entiendo, porque el señor está pidiendo en este 2.
Sí, bueno, yo les voy a explicar lo que
Sí, no le
hicimos
entendí,
por 50 años. Nosotros hicimos una ruta que se llama directa, Las Palmas, esa es una. Otra directa por la Rockwood que atendía a los Kennedy, son 2. Otra ruta que es por Andrade, ya son 3. Y otra ruta que es el Isai, que es por allá por la Club. So, nosotros lo hicimos por todos estos años, 4 rutas. Y para mí es necesidad.
Son 4 rutas, jefe de la policía.
Estamos hablando de que Calexico Transit System cubría 4 rutas diarias y empezaba de 7 de la mañana a 8 de la noche.
El jefe de la policía, ¿son 5 rutas o 4 rutas, señor? Autorizadas.
Es lo que diga el concilio.
Pero por eso estaban autorizadas 4 rutas, porque me tienen confundida.
Sí, mira.
Porque tú decías 5, por eso quiero saber.
Señora, entonces lo que tenía el señor Castro era que en el tiempo de él eran las 4 rutas.
Okay.
Se pueden autorizar, si ustedes piensan que ya la ciudad ha crecido, si el señor Castro, alguien pide que le pongan 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 rutas, el concilio es el que decide si hay la necesidad.
El señor de esas 4 rutas está pidiendo 2 rutas de esas 4 rutas o hay una nueva. Es que, perdón, no entendí todo lo que hizo Lisa. Entonces, son 2 rutas que está pidiendo, ¿verdad? ¿Son las mismas? ¿Son 4? ¿Son 5? ¿Me pueden alguien explicar cuántas rutas tenemos?
Sí, vamos a dejar que la persona que está aplicando para eso le explique.
Sí, bueno, él sí, 2 rutas, ¿verdad?
Sí, básicamente las rutas que el señor Castro tenía, ¿verdad?, en su tiempo funcionaron, eran 4, tengo entendido, yo la verdad no estoy seguro, eran a lo mejor las 4 en su tiempo. ¿Mande?
¿Usted quiere 2 de las 4?
Yo ahorita estoy aplicando para 2 rutas, la ruta para outlets y la ruta que va a recorrer los puntos más importantes de la ciudad.
Eso quería saber.
Okay.
Eso quería saber.
Sí.
Es que, perdón, el mayor me había comentado que eran 5 rutas, entonces dije yo, ¿cuál será la quinta? Ok. Señor Castro, tengo una pregunta para usted. La situación, perdón, señor Pérez, le pregunto a él porque tiene 50 años de experiencia en el transporte, ¿verdad? Como usted comprenderá. Señor Castro, la situación económica después de la pandemia y antes de la pandemia que usted pidió aquí que se le apoyara para aumentar las tarifas, ¿considera usted, perdón, sé que es muy costoso, los 350,000 personas que antes pasaban por aquí al año, como usted lo dice en su estudio, no alcanzaba ni siquiera para la operatividad, era muy poca la ganancia que ustedes tenían, sin embargo, agradezco a usted y públicamente que hayan sostenido de alguna manera con buen, mal o mediano servicio, eso no estamos discutiendo, pero usted y su familia estuvieron aquí casi 50 años dando este servicio, sin el apoyo de la ciudad, porque no le apoyamos con dinero, güey. Entonces, ni ACTC hemos pedido nada, no hemos pedido nunca nada para nada aquí. Ha pedido el centro, Broly, pero no todo. Ahora bien, y lo digo como debe de ser, porque somos una ciudad receptoras de mucha gente y nosotros debimos desde hace mucho tiempo pedir en ACTC apoyo como lo hizo Broly, como lo hizo el centro, con las líneas que ellos tienen, independientemente de la línea que tenemos aquí del condado. O sea, sé perfectamente eso, pero no atacamos todas las rutas, señor Pérez. Entonces, si usted trabajaba 4 rutas, señor, con esa dificultad que tenían económica, porque siempre la ha existido, ahora ya después de la pandemia, que esperamos supuestamente que pase mucha gente, la verdad no ha pasado mucha, pero independientemente de eso, le pregunto a usted, usted con su experiencia, sinceramente, ¿usted cree conveniente que se deba de aumentar el servicio a $2? Quisiera que me contestara.
Sí, yo sé, pero señor alcalde, si pudiera responder a todo esto, porque pienso que hay unos malentendimientos de lo que estamos hablando. Yo tengo la respuesta a esto, si me otorga la palabra.
Sí.
Muy brevemente.
Sí. Hizo una pregunta, ¿la va a contestar? No, porque habla el señor.
Es muy importante, Raúl,
Porque hizo una
Sí,
pregunta.
porque
pero es que el señor Castro tiene mucha experiencia en la cuestión del costo de
yo entiendo que el señor Castro...
Ok, Mr. Araña, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sí,
Spencer,
if I
could
may.
I say something?
¿Puedes decirlo primero?
Gloria, señora Rombo, con todo respeto, ahorita lo que estamos haciendo es tratando de aprobar lo que está en la mesa. Con el señor Castro, cuando él venga con nosotros con todos los detalles y todas las aprobaciones que se necesita, entonces es cuando nosotros le vamos a...
Señora Rosy, estoy de acuerdo, pero permíteme.
un momento,
Estoy de
yo
acuerdo
pedí
con
la palabra
usted, pero
primero.
le voy a decir una cosa muy importante.
No, sí, yo sé.
Nada
pero-
más hay un servicio en la ciudad de Calexico y sinceramente para dar mi voto justo como debe de ser, yo no puedo tomar una decisión si no me queda claro, porque represento a la ciudadanía de Calexico, si no me queda claro exactamente lo que está pasando, porque después va a llegar el señor Castro y si el señor ya está cobrando $2 y él va a cobrar unos 50 y son 4 rutas y él va a tener 2 y el otro 2 o van a ser las mismas, o sea... Sinceramente, si no hubiera recibido yo una carta del señor Castro donde dice que él va a empezar a operar en diciembre, pues no me dan
señor-
todas estas
Ok,
dudas.
señora
Con
Romo,
respeto.
ya,
Señor
¿no?
alcalde, si
Ok.
pudiera...
No, sí, pero señora
Está bien.
Roma, dispense, pero eso que tiene que ver con...
Señor alcalde,
Mucho tiene que
Okay,
ver mi
okay,
decisión.
please be quiet, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just yes. Let's get the floor to one
Right, right,
speaker and then move on. That way, we don't need to
Okay,
speaking
so,
over
Ms.
each
Romo,
other.
This is what I'm going to say, Ms. Romo.
Iba a tomar uno
Ms. Romo,
decisiones así
okay,
nomás.
I'm very patient with you. Please stop it, okay?
Pero estoy bien,
Just stop it.
nomás que,
And we
¿cómo no voy a
talked about it.
preguntar? Tengo el derecho de preguntar cualquier
Okay,
duda
but
que tengas.
there's a process for the place and the
señor
time for
alcalde,
that. Go ahead, Mr. Araña.
if I may. Mira, estamos confundiendo dos cosas. Primero que nada, esta resolución simplemente es para certificar a alguien. Todo función de precio tiene dos funciones. Está una por ordenanza que hacemos como cabildo, decimos máximo $2, máximo $3, máximo $4, pero de ahí en adelante, independientemente de eso, lo que quiera cobrar este señor, lo que quiera cobrar el señor Castro, es una función de mercado. Ahí no nos metemos. Nosotros nomás damos el permiso, sí.
Acaba de decir que pidió permiso para que le
Sí,
siguieran a unos
sí,
Ok.
precisamente a eso me refiero. Nosotros ponemos el máximo, pero mientras queden dentro de ese reglamento, es función de mercado.
Pues aquí
Nos-
dice que $2.
Exactamente. Cabe...
Al autorizarle a él, le voy a autorizar $2.
Exactamente. No entiende. Es un sí o no. Ahorita, si mal no me equivoco, el reglamento dice máximo $2. El Castro todavía puede cobrar $1.50 si así gusta, $1.75, $1.85. Nosotros ponemos máximo y luego el mercado pone precio. Y así. Ahí no estamos metiendo narices absolutamente para nada. Ahora sí puedo decir lo que quería decir.
Go ahead.
Mucho aprecio para el señor Castro, para el señor Lalo, mucho aprecio de que como emprendedores se acerquen a la mesa y quieran emprender este negocio que tanto se ocupa como bien social en esta ciudad, que va a ser transformativa para esta ciudad. Mucho orgullo para el señor García, a la señora Fernández por sus comentarios, la verdad. Correctamente están diciendo lo que se ocupa en esta ciudad, que ocupamos más. Y como está diciendo el señor García, es muy cierto. No nos vamos a quedar en el mercado del pasado. El mercado de transporte de Calexico ha cambiado definitivamente. Inconforme la señora Tailinda, la señora directora de planeación, va centralizando, tengamos más cosas en downtown, se van a abrir nuevos mercados de transporte donde todos van a tener su clave, su especialidad. Todos van a tener espacio, todos van a tener comercio, si nos organizamos bien. No nos vamos más allá. Yo digo que debe haber una moción para aprobar esta resolución de inmediato. I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Okay, Mr. Araña, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Mr. Castro, you done? ¿Ya terminó?
No le dejaste saber.
There's a motion on the floor.
I know, because I know there's a motion on the floor right now, but I think we need one more.
of course.
Mr. Horton wants to speak.
¿Me permite?
Por eso pregunto, ¿ya terminó?
No.
Ok.
Por eso le digo que si me permite. No, pues primeramente quiero darle las gracias al City Manager, a usted, Mayor, y ahorita los comentarios que está haciendo Ureña. Hace más de un año visité al City Manager y en esta última semana visité al Mayor y les comenté que ayuda de transporte, subsidio hace falta para volver a operar como se debe, ¿verdad? Estuvimos hablando y una de las cosas que me gustó que empezó el City Manager a decirme que había la manera de trabajar con ICTC, ¿verdad? Que es lo mismo que usted me comentó, Mayor. Y lo que está diciendo Ureña básicamente pues es cierto, ¿no? Hay que buscar, tienen que hacer administración, tiene que hacer tiempo y ustedes como City Council pues ayudar a apoyar a que haya fondos para transporte, porque pues en verdad 50 años no lo miramos nosotros, ¿no? Pero es muy importante que todo este movimiento, cada uno de ustedes aporten ustedes City Council, su tiempo, y administrador pues ya me dijo que hay maneras de cómo buscar, el Mayor también me dijo, nomás como comentario, ¿no? Yo le doy las gracias a cada uno de ustedes y pues hay que seguir adelante, ¿verdad? Ese es todo mi comentario y otra vez entiendo el proceso, pero aquí estamos. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Pastor. Mr. Benhart, you want something?
Thank you. One of the points I have to concur with Mr. Guerrero when he talks about the fees. What took place, let's say 10, 15, 20 years ago in reference to prices are not the same now. You have fuel prices that are going up, and I'm sure every time you drive up to the pump, you get price shock. Then you have the cost of let's say the employees. What was going on like $5, 20 or so many years ago, what is it now? It's getting to be about $15 an hour. $15 an hour. And then now you look at other factors, the utility, the maintenance of the vehicles, your insurance, all these factors, and I'm talking about economics, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about economics. If you're going to say, oh, we're going to give it for whatever we did 15 or 20 years ago, you're going to be cheating the service and you're going to be cheating the community for the service because they won't be able to provide the service. Let's look at economics. You won't be able to provide the service. And I'm sure how many of you have been involved with bids. A lot of times when you have a bid, they'll give you the lowest bid, but doesn't necessarily mean that the materials or whatever is going to be up to the standards. Up to the standards, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're going to say, oh, we'll take the cheapest bid, then you find out you got cost overruns, you got all these things. Then you have to come back and address the situation again. As a city council, you have to look at all the factors. Now, we're talking here about the application part of it. You vet the person, you go through all the deal, the highway patrol is going to see about their vehicles, if they're safe for the public. The police department is going to check and see if they're safe. And if they're not, if you don't have the insurance, you're not maintaining it, who's liable then? Who's liable then? Your job is to give the public a safe environment. If you can't do that, please resign and get somebody else who will do that. We're talking safety. I'm not saying, to me, $2 seems awful cheap. $1.25 seems even more cheaper. And then how many of you have sit down to look at the cost factor, what it's going to entail? I hope that you look at the regional point about economics and what's the best for the community. And like we said, there's no exclusivity for this project. Anybody can come in and say, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Then it comes to the city council, and what do? You grant it. Simple as that. Because they have did all the requirements that you asked for. And I hope that in this process here, you grant Mr. Perez the certificates so we can move this community forward. And then if somebody else wants to come in, they do the whole situation, the police, the planning, the whole ball of wax, and then you'll come to you and you'll say, okay, you're good to go too. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Okay, anybody else? Nope. So I think the motion on the floor is to,
There's a motion, we need a second for that motion. The motion is to approve the item, and for clarification, it's the approval of resolution
Yes.
with
Right.
the appropriate conditions.
right, and so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a roll call vote, so we'll do that.
We need a second
A
first.
second.
Is there a second? We need a second first.
Yeah,
Is there a
does
second?
Anybody second that?
I made a motion to approve, para aprobar.
Anybody second?
A second.
Second, Mr. Garcia, and so I'll do is a roll call vote? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before you take your roll call vote, I do want to point out that if we can consider that the resolution that's before you, make a correction that it is passed, adopted, and approved on the 10th day of November. There's a little grammatical error that reads 17th. It should be 10th. If
Oh,
that
the
can
10th.
be accepted, we can proceed.
With that amendment, I'll make my motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so let the record reflect, that's the 10th instead of 17th.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start here on my left. Mr. Ureña, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Strong?
My vote is yes, but it's not agree with the $2 that cost for transport.
So vote is yes. Okay, thank you. Mr. Garcia? Aye. Mr. Fernandez? Aye. And I vote aye. Motion is passed by all. Thank you, Mr.
And
Mayor.
this will follow the regular procedural process for vetting as it was presented by Chief Guerrero.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Perez, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, on this agenda, is there future items? No?
No, we just go for
If I may just propose one, I would like to make a presentation with the planning director, myself and the planning director, either for next meeting or probably the meeting after this one, just so we have enough time, so we can address the cost. I want to tell the public how the economy of like transportation works. It's
Yeah.
gonna help us with planning, it's gonna
It's
help the private
necessary.
operators. I'll limit it to 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yes, please,
No.
it's very
Yeah, no,
necessary.
right? Okay. All right, so anything else? I'll move to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Mr. Garcia, second. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye?
Aye. Adjourn.